Okay, thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna, dear devotees. Today we are reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 7, Chapter 14, Ideal Family Life, from text 13 to 23. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudiraet Nashtaprayeshu Avadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavate Uttama Sloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naistiki. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivas Adi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare. We're starting from text 13. Through proper deliberation, one should give up attraction to his wife's body, because that body will ultimately be transformed into small insects, stool or ashes. What is the value of this insignificant body? How much greater is the Supreme Being who is all pervading like the sky? Text 14. An intelligent person should be satisfied with eating prasada, food offered to the Lord, or with performing the 5 different kinds of yajna, panchasana. By such activities, one can give up attachment for the body and so-called proprietorship with reference to the body. When one is able to do this, he is firmly fixed in the position of a Mahatma. Text 15. Every day one should worship the Supreme Being who is situated in everyone's heart, and on this basis one should separately worship the demigods, the saintly persons, ordinary human beings, and living entities, one's forefathers and one's self. In this way, one is able to worship the Supreme Being in the core of everyone's heart. Text 16. When one is enriched with wealth and knowledge, which are under his full control, and by means of which he can perform yajna or please the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one must perform sacrifices, offering oblations to the fire according to the directions of the Shastras. In this way, one should worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Text 17. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, is the enjoyer of sacrificial offerings. Yet, although his lordship eats the oblations offered in the fire, my dear king, he is still more satisfied when nice food made of grains and ghee is offered to him through the mouths of qualified brahmanas. Text 18. Therefore, my dear king, first offer prasada unto the brahmanas and the demigods, and after sumptuously feeding them, you may distribute prasad to other living entities according to your ability. In this way, you'll be able to worship all living entities, or in other words, the supreme being, supreme living entity within every living entity. Text 19. A Brahmana who is sufficiently rich must offer oblations to the forefathers during the dark moon fortnight in the later part of the month of Bhadra. Similarly, he should offer oblations to the relatives of the forefathers during the Mahalaya ceremonies in the month of Asvina. Text 20 through 23. One should perform the Shraddha ceremony on the Makara Sankranti, the day when the sun begins to move north, or on the Karkata Sankranti, the day when the sun begins to move south. One should also perform this ceremony on the Mesa Sankranti day and the Tula Sankranti day, in the yajna named Vatipati. On that day, in which 3 lunar tithis are conjoined, during an eclipse of either the moon or the sun or the 12th lunar day, and in the Sravana Nakshatra. One should perform this ceremony on the Akshaya Tritiya day, on the ninth lunar day of the bright fortnight of the month of Kartika, on the four Astakas in the winter season and cool season, on the seventh lunar day of the bright fortnight of the month of Magha, during the conjunction of Magha Nakshatra and the full moon day, and on the days when the moon is completely full or not quite completely full. When these days are conjoined with the nakshatras from which the names of the certain months are derived. One should also perform the Shraddha ceremony on the 12th lunar day when it is in conjunction with any of the nakshatras, named Anuradha, Shravana, Uttara Falguni, Uttara Sada, or Uttara Bhadrapada. Again, one should perform this ceremony when the 11th lunar day is in conjunction with either Uttara Falguni, Uttara Sada, or Uttara Bhadrapada. Finally, one should perform this ceremony on days conjoined with one's one birth star, Janma Nakshatra, or with Shravana Nakshatra. Hare Krishna.
Yeah, thank you so much, Achyut Prabhuji. Hare Krishna. Let me start it. Let me change to headset once again.
Yeah, brief prayers. Yeah, Sri Krishna Prabhu could not join today, so I will share what I understood from this section. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Gnananjana Shalakaya Chekshurunmritam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruvai Namaha Namam Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashatya Desatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadara Sri Vasadi Gaura Bhaktarvrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So so we're reading from the 7th canto, 14th chapter, text number 13 to 23 that we had just heard from Achyut Prabhu just now. So brief context, overall conversation, the 7th canto, we're in the last portion of the 7th canto, last 5 chapters. It's interesting how acharyas describe it. The first 10 chapters are describing about pure devotion of Prahlad Maharaj. So another way to describe it is positive inclination of Prahlad Maharaj and negative inclination of doing sinful activity by Hiranyakashipu. So we're getting a positive example to get inspired by Prahlad Maharaj. We're getting negative example of Hiranyakashipu to not get inspired, to understand that that is not good for us, like that. And then Yudhishthira Maharaj asks questions to Narada Muni. So that drives these last five chapters of this 7th canto, which is describing those of us who may not be at the pure devotion right now, but who have some mixed desires. Some yes, I want to do bhakti nicely. Yeah, I want to enjoy this also nicely, like that. So how do we perfect our life? So that is the context in describing this last 5 chapters by Narada Muni. And the principle to capture here, uh, is that mm, while we are doing our daily life currently, how we can live dharmically yet progress spiritually also. So that is the idea of this whole section. Of course, some people, when they hear these descriptions of dharmically, they'll get stuck to that with forgetting the ultimate purpose is to please Krishna. The ultimate purpose is to grow in our bhakti. So the essence is to grow in our bhakti and do what we can as best as possible within Varnashma duties, Varnashma responsibilities, which are favorable to Krishna consciousness, which are favorable to bhakti. Always in our vision, in our overall plan of life, we keep the ultimate goal of life as the top priority. Then we evaluate everything else that Shastra is saying in connection to that. That is a very important principle to capture for us. So that's why somebody may argue, oh, scriptures are saying that you're not doing that. Scriptures are not saying that you're not doing that. So how do we handle that for our own internally not being guilty, not being feeling that I'm not doing that, oh my God, I'm not doing that, I'm not doing that, I'm not doing that, is we follow the Guru, Sadhu and Shastra together. Then what that means is Shastra has so many instructions that we aren't able to follow all of them. Then we follow the guidance of a Guru who tells us, oh, you cannot do that, you cannot do that. So let us at least do this like that. So that's why we follow the instructions of Acharyas in practicing of bhakti life, which includes primarily chanting our 16 rounds of Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, and then following the four regulated principles, serving Vaishnavas, serving the deity form of the Lord, reading scriptures, hearing scriptures, like that. So these nine forms of devotion, Navavida Bhakti is also called. That's what we engage in. Why? Doing the best we can with everything else possible in our life. Yeah, that is the main essence I want to capture. Now we'll go into the detail. Now, in this particular chapter, first portion is this chapter was titled as the ideal family life. The first portion of this chapter we heard yesterday about the ideal family life portion. So that is where we heard about the duties of a grostha. Grostha means somebody who's married, but utilizing his marriage for growing in bhakti, for growing in Krishna consciousness, like that. That's what the section started. We'll continue that section. That section will continue till 18th verse. And after that, the second theme for today will be what are the best times, what are the best places for performing religious activities. So, um, generally, you might have heard the terms Desha, Kala, Patra. Basically, religious instructions, mm, our scriptural instructions are applied, those principles are applied according to the time, place, and circumstance, like that. So that's why um, Desa and Kala, time and place, will be elaborated in the second portion of this today's section. Okay, we will first continue the duties portion but that we are hearing. Again, remember, our highest duty is to serve Supreme Lord. Highest duty is to perform bhakti. Rest of the duties, we do them as long as they're favorable to bhakti, and we do them as much as they're favorable to bhakti. We do them as appropriately so that they become favorable to bhakti, like that. Yeah, that is a key principle to remember. Now going to the 13th verse. So, if you remember, the previous verse was talking about how detachment of the, if somebody is too much attached to wife and family members, they might go to a large extent of disobeying superiors, even killing the superiors, and um, and killing the guru, like that we described in the last verse. So the theme is continuing. So previous verse described the dangers of attachment to the wife or the opposite gender or family members, like that. Now, in this verse, the remedy is being described. What we should do instead. The positive way we are describing. What is the positive way of describing? So, by deliberation, that means by proper thinking, by enforcing our intelligence, by reinforcing our intelligence, then we need to give up the attraction to the wife or husband's insignificant body. Because understanding that, um, understanding two things. Number one, that body is temporary. So this body what that we have, the my wife has, or our husband has, is temporary. So in this life for 100 years maybe it will stay. After that they will go to another body, like that. So it's not a big deal, like that. So that is one understanding. The way to describe this understanding, one time His Holiness Sri Radharanath Swami Maharaj describes, he had this realization when he was in Varanasi, I believe. So where he was seeing that how dead bodies are either cremated, that means they'll become ashes, or dead bodies are thrown in the Ganges water, so they'll become food for insects or aquatics, like that. Or even if somebody is buried inside the earth, they will become food for the insects, like that. But if they're not buried inside the earth, then they will become food for birds like vulture, for example, and insects like that, and it becomes stool from that bird basically. So that is why Shastras are describing this principle also in many places. And saintly persons deliberate on this subject to understand the temporality of the material body. So that is what is being described in this body, in this verse. That is the first portion of this verse. That means when we understand properly the temporary nature of this material body, then we'll not be so attached to our own body or somebody else's body. Even that happens to your wife or husband or lover, doesn't matter. So that is the first principle being taught in this particular verse. Who is teaching this? Avadut Brahmana is teaching this to Prahlad Maharaj. So that is the overall context in which this is going on, right? Oh, sorry. Now that section is finished in last chapter. Now we are hearing directly from Narada Muni. So Narada Muni is teaching this to Yudhishthira Maharaj. So that is one aspect. Second aspect, interestingly, how much greater is this, is the Supreme Being compared to the insignificant value of this body? So that is a very important principle to capture. So when we understand greatness of the Supreme Lord, greatest value of the bhakti in our life, greatest value of performing bhakti in our life, then what we naturally do is we prioritize that as the highest aim in our life. And then everything else will become lower priority. Similarly, here the comparison is made. Do you want a Supreme Lord, or do you want this body to be happy? Do you want a Supreme Lord, or do you want the wife's body? Do you want a Supreme Lord, or do you want the husband's body? Like that comparison is being given. The principle to capture here is whatever decisions we're making in life, whatever desires we cultivate in our life, whatever activities we're about to perform in our life, whatever plans we're making in our life, we always need to evaluate, is it favorable to my Krishna consciousness? Is it pleasing to Krishna? Is it favorable and pleasing to Krishna or not, basically? That is how we can make the majority of our decisions easily. Easily, easily comes with practice, but initially we might need some guidance from guru or a mentor also. So that is the principle to capture here. So then, the moment we start evaluating everything, is this pleasing to my guru? Is this pleasing to Krishna? Is this favorable to my bhakti? Then so many decisions become easier, and we also are more likely to be situated in our bhakti platform than material mundane things like that. That is the other principle to capture here like that. So the other way Prabhupada writes in the purport nicely towards the last sentence is that by deliberating, we have to give up attachment for the body and increase attachment for the spirit soul. What does that mean? Attachment to spirit soul means doing what is beneficial for spirit soul, which is bhakti to Krishna, instead of trying to do what is the best thing for a body only all the time. Then somebody may take this wrong way, thinking that body is useless, waste. I don't need to take care of body. I don't need to eat proper food. I don't need to do exercise. I don't need to sleep well. Somebody might come to that conclusion. That's where acharyas guide us nicely to help us understand the purpose of the body is to utilize it for service of Krishna. So because the body is helpful for doing our bhakti to Krishna, that is why we take care of a body also. And same thing with our mind also. That means it's important to take healthy food every day and at the right time and the right amount of food and the right type of food also. That is healthy for us in terms of body and mind also, because the food affects the mind also. Similarly, taking proper rest as much as situation permits is important also for mind to be healthy, because unless the mind and body are healthy, we cannot perform our bhakti. So in that connection, we need to see, oh, if I take care of my body's health, it's helpful for bhakti, it's pleasing to Krishna, so I should take care of it like that. So that is the other balancing factor to remember, but not go overboard in taking care of only body, because there are some people who spend all their day understanding the health tips only in life. That's okay. That's important for life, but not that is not the main thing in our life. Main thing is to do bhakti to perform bhakti, we want to take care of health also. That context we should never miss. So going to the text 14. Text 14 talks about important principle. In fact, this is one of the principle I learned in my bhakti life, earliest principle I learned, which is intelligent person should be satisfied with eating prasada, food offered to the Lord, or with performing 5 types of yajna. So why so? Because just by these acts of sacrifice like eating prasadam, our attachment to the body will go away. That is the remedy. How to do it is being given in scriptures also. Sometimes we think scriptures talk about high things, but I don't know how to do it. So scriptures are practical. Devotees are practical. Narada Muni is practical. He's telling us by just eating prasada and doing things for satisfaction of Krishna, we give up the attachment to this body and at proprietorship to the anything related to the body like that. Mine. In other words, this is my body. I am this body. That consciousness will go away, and this is mine. That consciousness also can go away by practicing bhakti, including eating prasadam. So that is the principle of, and he says, when one is able to do this, is firmly fixed in the position of a Mahatma. So, yeah, in the purport, Prabhupada writes about another important principle. So, two principles we're getting from this. One is we should be careful to eat only what is offered to Krishna. That means, ideally, something should have been cooked for by devotees for pleasure of Krishna and then offered to Krishna and then we eat. That's the ideal principle. So, where we cannot do it, there are compromises that we can make depending upon a situation. Always remember, compromise means we're not getting the highest result. But what to do? In our circumstance, we need to do something like that. So, like that, we need to be conscious of eating only prasada so that we can stay in this path of purification for the pleasure of Krishna. Second thing Prabhupada is talking about is one should not be very much anxious about economic development and unnecessarily waste time and energy with the risk of falling down in the cycle of birth and death. So, when I understand that I'm not this body, things related to this body in this world are not the most important, then naturally I utilize my time, energy, and enthusiasm wisely. So that I don't spend all the time in the bodily maintenance and trying to get a bigger home, trying to get a bigger car, trying to get a bigger job. My life is not wasted only in that. I ensure I have sufficient time for spiritual practice also. That is a principle to take from here. Going to next verse, text number 15. This is talking about how now we talked about detachment from body, detachment from family members, and then we talked about satisfaction of Supreme Lord is the highest, and then how to respect and worship others in relation to Supreme Being. That is what is being described in this verse. So one should worship the Supreme Being who is situated in everyone's heart. And on this basis, one should separately worship the demigods, saintly persons, ordinary human beings, and living entities, and one's own self also. So that is basically we need to recognize that everybody is a part and parcel of Krishna. Everybody has Krishna in their heart. When we recognize that, when we deal with others nicely and we deal with ourselves also nicely. How is that? For example, when we remember that Krishna is in my heart, then we do our duties properly because Krishna is seeing always, Krishna is the evidence. And then we also take care of body, understanding that this body is a temple of Krishna, so it needs to be taken care of like that. Similarly, when we see that others have Krishna in their heart, then we don't abuse them either by words or by actions or behavior also. Because we understand Krishna is in their heart. So Krishna is personally seeing it. And their body is also temple of Krishna like that. So that is a consciousness of a person who is practicing Krishna consciousness, seeing Krishna in everyone and respecting everyone according to their position like that. Going to the text number 16. So here the principle of sacrifice is being highlighted like Bhagavad Gita where Krishna highlights. So um, with whatever wealth we have, with whatever understanding we have, we should perform yajna or sacrifice to please Supreme Lord Krishna. So uh, basically, the idea here to take is one is we develop knowledge from scriptures, what scriptures are saying us to do in terms of duties in life, in terms of bhakti practices in our life, and then we should perform sacrifices to please Krishna. That is the principle being described in this verse. In the purport, Prabhupada is emphasizing uh, the principle that two broad principles. One is whatever wealth we have, whatever knowledge we have, we should utilize in serving Krishna. So how do we utilize that? Some of the results of our work, we need to give it to as donation to Krishna to spread the Krishna consciousness movement like that. Number one. Number two, we are understanding something, we share with others little bit of something like that, according to our capacity. That is the way we utilize the wealth and knowledge. Of course, knowledge is useful for us, like we discussed, for our own uh, being firm in bhakti and practice bhakti also, we utilize our knowledge also. And then by performing this chanting of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, when Sankirtan, by participating in the Sankirtan movement, by preaching in whatever capacity we can do like that. Going to text number 17. Uh, yeah. So then, actually, now that he talked about, Narada Muni talked about performances, now he's trying to balance it so that somebody doesn't take it to extreme. Oh, performing sacrifices is the goal of life. That's all. Nothing more than that. So somebody may become attached to rituals like that. So instead of that, now what is describing here in text number 17 is the Supreme Lord Krishna is the enjoyer of all sacrificial offerings. So although Krishna is satisfied when you directly give them food, Krishna is more satisfied with nice food made of nice grains and ghee offered through the mouth of qualified Brahmana. So again, this principle should be understood properly. Somebody may take this principle saying that Manava Seva, Madhava Seva. That means Krishna is pleased with Manava Seva, so I don't care about Krishna anymore. I just care about people, serving people nicely so that they can eat food, they can have clothes like that. The principle being here is, remember previous verse was saying, seeing how everybody is part and parcel of Krishna, seeing them in connection of Krishna, and then offer food to Krishna, and that prasada we give it to other living entities, including Brahmanas. You probably remember in yesterday's class, Rajchandrika Matri was describing about how one of the duty of Grihastha is to invite guests, especially sannyasis, Brahmanas, and then feed them prasada, not feed them food that is not offered, feed them prasada. So that's what is being emphasized here. Best thing to do is offer nicely cooked food to Krishna and then offer that to devotees. That way, we can purify ourselves and we can potentially help others if you utilize that for prasadam distribution also, same way. Going to text number 18. Um, yeah, I like this verse because it's describing some order in which how the prasadam is to be distributed. It is hard to practice this all the time, but we can remember so that way we understand why we need to do what we see some great devotees are doing. First, offer prasadam to brahmanas and demigods, and after sumptuously feeding them, you may distribute prasada to other living entities according to your ability. So that's important. That means first we need to make sure we feed the brahmanas and sannyasis like that. And then other living entities we can feed like that. That is the point being made. If my money is only very little, then I can feed the brahmanas first like that. That is the point. So that way we can take care of other everyone like that. And we can take care of supreme being within every living entity also. Similarly, Prabhupada writes in purport, whenever there is a ceremony or a festival that happens, the prasad is offered first to the brahmanas, number one, then to the children and old men. Notice, and then to the women, and then to the animals like dogs or other domestic animals, like that is being described. Obviously, many times is not very practical, but at least brahmanas need to show at least. Now, many places we see children and old men are care. There are some practical reasons of doing this also. because the children and old men cannot hold the hunger for a long time. So that's an important consideration also. And as the main means of protection also, that is one way of offering protection. Yeah, that's what is being described in this purport. So then go to the 19th verse, uh, and this is talking about how a Brahman used to offer a Shraddha ceremony to his forefathers on a fortnightly basis. Then and then during Mahalaya ceremonies that happen once a month also, once a year also, like that. So obviously we understand that some of these practices are not very easy for us to do. So we continue doing our bhakti practices and do what we can. For example, we take care of feeding Vaishnavas with Sunday feast at Mahalaya time, like for example, once a year, or when our father or mother or grandfather, grandmother passes away, that particular ceremony, annual ceremony, we can offer food to the Brahmanas like that. That based on our circumstance, we can offer accordingly. So the last 20 to 20 verses, 23 verses today, this giving the details of the time. Remember, this section is about time and place to perform proper ritual ceremonies. So this is describing about proper time when the Shraddha ceremonies are to be performed like that. So obviously, there's a time every year, depending upon the Tithi or our ancestors are passed away, we can perform at that time or perform during the Mahalaya time, which is done once a year in most temples also. We're encouraged to sponsor like that. So that is the other thing we describe here. So, yeah, one of the detailed Prabhupada writes in the purport is that when the Tithi of a death anniversary falls on Ekadasi, we should not perform on that Tithi, but the following day, Prabhupada writes in the purport. So, for our perspective, in Bhagavad Gita also, Krishna describes charity in the three modes, right? Charity in the mode of goodness is performed at the right time. That means not in the night time, like that. So give it the right time, like that. That means morning time, preferably. And festival days are very auspicious for giving charity. Like that, we utilize them. So essentially, we discussed two broad themes today. One broad theme is concluding the duties of a grihastha or householder, which primarily focused on understanding intellectually how not temporality of the body and insignificance of the body compared to Supreme Lord and compared to the service of the Supreme Lord Bhakti, like that. And then how we can cultivate detachment by performing proper sacrifices, including eating prasadam and distributing prasadam, and how prasadam should be distributed. That was the first section we discussed. And the second section we briefly discussed is the importance of the proper time for Varnashami duties like performing Shraddha ceremony on a particular tithis like that. That's what we discussed. So overall emphasis we discussed is while doing all these things, we should not forget connection of these things to Krishna, and then understand and do them so that as long as they are favorable to Krishna, we need to perform them and try to do them in a way that bhakti is not hampered or hindered like that. That's the essence of today's section. We'll pause here. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Vanchakalpatarubhesha Kripa Sindhu Bevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Thank you so much.